Please, Noah, please. Our baby. Don't do this, Emily whispered, her hands trembling as she shielded her swollen belly. Noah didn't care. He didn't even look at her face. He just tightened the leather belt in his hands and hissed, "Shut up, Emily. You made me look stupid in front of Vanessa." The first slap of the belt cracked through the living room like a gunshot. Emily staggered, gripping the couch for balance as tears blurred her vision. She was 7 months pregnant, barefoot, exhausted, and shaking so badly she couldn't even find her voice. But Vanessa, the mistress, laughed. She actually laughed. Her red lips curled as she leaned against the marble countertop, sipping wine as if she were watching a show. "Come on, baby," she taunted Noah. "Don't stop. She needs to learn." Emily felt her heart slam painfully against her ribs. She wasn't just being beaten. She was being humiliated. Again and again. The belt rose and fell, rose and fell. The house echoed with each strike. Emily wanted to scream, but fear had swallowed her voice. She tried to protect her belly, arching forward to shield her unborn child. But Noah didn't care. He dragged her by the hair and threw her on the cold floor. "Get up," he barked. "You embarrassed me, Emily. You talked back to me in front of Vanessa. In my own house. His rules. His violence." Emily's breath came in short, desperate gasps. She prayed silently. "Please, someone, help me. Please God, don't let him kill my baby." But unknown to her, unknown to Noah, unknown even to the smiling mistress, someone was watching. Someone who should never ever have been crossed. Someone powerful. Someone dangerous when angry. Someone who was about to change everything. Someone Noah would have never raised a hand in front of. Her father, Jonathan Reese, the billionaire CEO. The man feared in boardrooms, respected across the state, and known for having zero tolerance for disrespect, especially toward his family. And at that exact moment, as Noah raised the belt for the 50th time, a tall figure stood silently outside the living room window, fists clenched so tight that blood dripped from his palm. He had seen everything. Everything. But Noah didn't know that yet. He was too busy lifting the belt again, veins bulging in his neck. His eyes filled with the poisonous arrogance of a man who believed no one would ever hold him accountable. "Noah," Emily whispered weakly. "Please, the baby, please." He sneered. "You should have thought about the baby before embarrassing me." He lifted the belt. Higher, tighter, ready for another strike. But this time something changed. Emily didn't crouch. She didn't curl into herself. She just looked straight at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. Not out of fear but out of heartbreak. "I wish my father could see what you've become." Noah scoffed. "He hates you. Why would he care? You said it yourself, he cut you off. Remember?" Vanessa smirked. "Yes, sweetheart. If he cared about you, he wouldn't have vanished for 10 years. Emily closed her eyes. This was her life now. A husband who beat her. A mistress who mocked her. A child inside her fighting to survive every blow. She whispered again, "God, please stop this." The front door handle turned quietly. No one noticed. The mistress was too busy recording the beating. Yes, recording it. Vanessa held her phone high, grinning proudly. Noah was too busy tightening his grip. Emily was too busy crying. No one noticed the slow click of the door. No one noticed the shadow entering the house. No one noticed the silent fury walking toward them. Noah pulled his arm back for another strike. And then, voice, Edley, put, well, down. Everything stopped. Vanessa's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered. Emily gasped. Noah froze mid-swing. Slowly, too slowly, Noah turned. And when his eyes landed on the man standing behind him, his entire body turned cold. "Mr. Reese. I didn't know you were." "Put the belt down," Jonathan repeated, his voice steady and emotionless. The kind of emotionless that made grown men tremble. Vanessa stepped backward, her face turning white. Emily collapsed to the floor, sobbing in relief. Jonathan walked forward, slow and controlled, like a storm gathering power. 300 strikes, he said quietly, staring at Noah's hand. That's how many you plan to give my daughter tonight. Isn't it? It's not she made me, I didn't, Noah stuttered helplessly. But Jonathan didn't blink. He didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. Emily, he said softly. His tone shifted, gentle, fatherly, protective. Stand up, sweetheart. I'm here now. Emily sobbed. Dad, the baby. I know, he whispered. I saw everything. At that, Noah's knees almost buckled. Jonathan took one step closer until they were inches apart. You put your hands on a pregnant woman, he said. Not just any woman, my daughter. My only child. His eyes darkened. The police are on their way. Vanessa gasped. No, wait. I didn't do anything. You smiled, Jonathan said without looking at her. And you recorded it. Congratulations. You just became an accomplice. Noah panicked. Sir, please don't do this. Don't beg me, Jonathan said. Beg the judge. Then he knelt beside Emily and gently picked her up in his arms. She cried into his shoulder, trembling uncontrollably. Dad, she whispered. Are you disappointed in me? Jonathan's voice cracked. Just a little. Never, he whispered back. You survived hell. And now I'm going to burn it down. Emily cried harder. And for the first time in months, she felt safe. If you're still watching this and it stirred something in you, please subscribe. You never know who around you is suffering in silence. Your support helps these stories reach people who need courage, hope, and protection. Don't scroll. Subscribe to support someone fighting their own battle. Emily sat in the back of the ambulance, wrapped in a gray blanket that felt too rough against her bruised skin. The paramedic clipped a monitor on her finger, murmuring something about blood pressure and fetal movement. But Emily barely heard anything. Her father's voice echoed over every sound. I saw everything. Don't beg me, beg the judge. You survived hell. The words felt unreal. For months she had prayed for someone, anyone, to save her. Not once did she imagine it would be the father she hadn't seen in 10 years. Not once did she imagine he'd walk into the room at the exact moment Noah was preparing to hit her again. Her chest tightened. Not from fear this time, but from relief so overwhelming it made her dizzy. Ma'am, take deep breaths, the paramedic instructed gently. Your heart rate is very high. Emily nodded weakly, but her eyes stayed fixed on one person, her father. Jonathan stood a few feet away, arms folded across his chest. His face carved with the cold fury of a man who had been pushed past his limits. Police lights flashed red and blue across his suit, but he didn't flinch. He looked unshakable. But Emily saw something no one else could see. His jaw was trembling. He was trying not to explode. 2 police officers pushed Noah into the back of a patrol car. His wrists were cuffed tightly behind his back, and he was shaking, not from guilt but from fear. Sir, please listen, Noah shouted through the open window. It wasn't like that. I wasn't trying to hurt her that bad. She provoked me. Vanessa, standing next to another police cruiser, screamed back. He's lying. She provoked nothing. She deserved it. A female officer cut her off sharply. Ma'am, anything you say from this moment on can be used against you. You are being detained for questioning regarding accessory to domestic assault. Vanessa froze. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. No, I didn't do anything. I didn't touch her. You encouraged it, the officer said. And you recorded it. Jonathan turned his head and looked directly at Vanessa. The look alone made her step back. It wasn't just anger. It was disgust. You watched my daughter being beaten, he said quietly. And you smiled. You will answer for that. Vanessa's face crumpled with humiliation. But Emily couldn't look at her. She couldn't look at Noah either. Her eyes stayed on her father. He finally turned and walked toward the ambulance. For a moment Emily panicked. What if he blamed her? What if he was ashamed of her? What if he thought she was weak for staying so long? Her breath hitched. Her father climbed into the ambulance and sat beside her. His large hand gently covered hers. And Emily broke. She cried the way she hadn't cried in years. Loud, shaking, heartbreak pouring from her soul. "Dad, I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry I left. I'm sorry I stayed with him. I'm sorry for everything." "Emily," he whispered, cupping her face. "You have nothing to apologize for." "But..." No, his voice was firm. Final. Protective. "You didn't fail. You didn't cause this. You didn't deserve any of it. The only people who should be sorry are the ones in handcuffs right now." She shook her head helplessly. "I should have left earlier. I was scared." "I didn't. You were pregnant," he said softly. "And alone. And manipulated. And scared. That's not weakness, Emily. That's survival." Emily cried harder. Her father wiped her tears gently, just like he used to when she was a little girl. "You're safe now," he said. "I promise you. No one will ever lay a hand on you again." She leaned her forehead against his shoulder and whispered, "I missed you." His breath caught. "And I missed you more than you'll ever know." The ambulance doors closed. The world outside grew quieter. For the first time in years, Emily felt like she wasn't drowning. Her father's presence was a lifeline, strong, steady, unbreakable. The paramedic checked the fetal heart monitor and nodded. "Baby's strong," he said. "No signs of distress. You're very lucky." Lucky. Emily almost laughed. She didn't feel lucky. But her baby was alive. Her father was back. Noah was going to jail. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was the miracle she had been praying for. The ambulance pulled away from the scene, sirens silent, lights flashing through the dark Atlanta streets. Emily held her father's hand tighter. "Dad, how did you even find me?" she whispered. He hesitated, not long enough for her to notice, but long enough for pain to flicker across his face. "I got an anonymous message," he finally said. "Someone sent me a video of you crying in a bathroom. Bruised, terrified, pregnant. That person saved your life." Emily's heart dropped. "Who?" "I don't know," he said. "But someone in that house cared enough to reach out for help." Emily swallowed hard. Someone inside Noah's home. Someone who had secretly recorded her misery. Someone who had risked being caught. But who? Back at the arrest scene, Vanessa screamed as officers put her in the back of the police car. "Noah! Noah, say something. Tell them I didn't do anything." But Noah ignored her. He was too busy glaring at the ambulance disappearing down the street. He slammed his cuffed hands against the window and shouted, "This isn't over, Emily. Do you hear me? I'm going to." A police officer slammed the door shut, silencing him. The house was finally quiet. But not for long. Detectives were already gathering evidence. A team of officers entered the home with cameras. Neighbors gathered on lawns, whispering about the scandal. Reporters were already being notified. Noah didn't know it yet. But his life was finished. And Emily's. Her life was just beginning again. Inside the ambulance, Emily's eyes fluttered closed as exhaustion finally overtook her. Her father didn't let go of her hand. Not for 1 second. "Rest, sweetheart," he murmured. "You're safe now." As she drifted off, she whispered, "Dad, don't leave me again." His voice broke. "I won't. Not this time. Not ever again." Outside, the city lights passed in a blur. Justice had begun. And the world would soon learn exactly what happened inside that house. If this story is gripping your heart, don't leave yet, subscribe. You might save someone who is silently begging for help, just like Emily was. Don't scroll. Don't delay. Subscribe to support real stories that give people courage. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Emily lay on the bed, a fetal monitor wrapped around her belly, the steady beeping a reminder that her unborn child was still fighting. Her father sat in the chair beside her, elbows on his knees, fingers clasped tightly as if he were praying but didn't know how to anymore. Emily watched him. The lines on his face looked deeper than she remembered. The gray in his beard looked new. And the silence between them felt heavy, like 10 years of lost time had suddenly grown a heartbeat. She swallowed hard. "Dad, why did you leave?" she whispered. He didn't look at her. He just exhaled slowly, like he had been waiting for that question for a decade. "I didn't leave," he said quietly. "I was pushed away." Emily frowned. "What do you mean?" Her father leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling for a long moment before answering. "Do you remember the night you ran away?" he asked. "The night you told me you'd rather die than live under my rules? The night you left with Noah?" Emily's stomach twisted. She remembered. How could she not? She had been 18, angry, rebellious, desperate to prove she wasn't the spoiled daughter of a billionaire. Noah had swept her off her feet. Handsome, charismatic, promising her freedom. At the time he felt like escape, not danger. "I was stupid," Emily whispered. "I thought you were controlling me. I didn't know you were trying to protect me." "I never blamed you," her father said. "Not once." He paused, staring at his hands. "But Noah, he made sure I couldn't reach you. He blocked your number. He told security at the apartment complex I was a threat. And you?" His voice trembled. "You told me to stay away. You said you were happier without me. You said to never come near you again." Emily felt tears burning her eyes. "That wasn't me," she whispered. "Noah told me." "I know," her father said. "I eventually realized that. But at the time, I thought you really hated me." Emily covered her mouth as a quiet sob slipped out. "Dad, I never hated you. I was just lost." He looked at her then, his eyes softening. "Sweetheart, you were 18. He groomed you, manipulated you. I should have fought harder for you. I should have dragged you home kicking and screaming if that's what it took." Emily shook her head. "No, I wouldn't have listened. I was too blinded." Her father leaned forward again, elbows on his knees. "Do you remember your mother's last words?" he asked. Emily blinked in surprise. Then pain. Then regret. Her mother's voice came back to her like it was yesterday. "Promise me you'll protect her." Emily felt her heart twist. She whispered, "I remember. I failed that promise," her father said. "No, you didn't," Emily whispered fiercely. "You kept me alive tonight. You saved your grandchild." He looked at her belly then, and something broke in his expression, something raw and fragile. "I never wanted you to go through what I went through," he murmured. Emily's brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then sighed. "My father hit my mother," he said simply. "For years. I grew up watching the same thing you lived through tonight. I swore I would never let my daughter experience that. I thought if I raised you to be strong, confident, independent, you would never fall into the hands of a man like him." Emily stared at him, her breath catching. "Dad, I didn't know. I didn't want you to know," he whispered. "I didn't want violence to be part of your story. I didn't want you to think men like Noah still existed." Emily wiped her cheeks. "But they do," she whispered. "Not for you anymore," he said firmly. "Not ever again." A knock sounded on the door. Detective Harris stepped inside. Middle-aged, sharp eyes, no hesitation. "Mr. Reese," he nodded. "Emily, I need a moment of your time." Emily tensed. Her father straightened. The detective flipped open a folder. "We've reviewed footage from the home. The video your husband's mistress recorded is enough to put Noah away for a very long time. And Vanessa, she's already crying, confessing, blaming him, blaming herself, blaming the wine, blaming the devil. Take your pick." Emily closed her eyes. "So she's going to jail too," she whispered. Most likely, the detective said. But that's not the part one need to discuss. Emily blinked. There's more. Detective Harris nodded. The anonymous tip that led your father to your location. We traced it. Emily's heartbeat quickened. Her father leaned forward. Who sent it? The detective hesitated. Your husband's brother, he said. Kevin. Emily's eyes widened. Kevin. Quiet. Nervous. Always avoiding eye contact. He had never hit her. Never yelled at her. Never stopped Noah either. But he'd always looked haunted when he saw the bruises. Where is he now? Emily whispered. Gone, the detective replied. He left the state 40 minutes after sending the message. Looks like he was terrified Noah would kill him for helping you. Emily pressed a hand to her mouth. Her father shook his head. I'll make sure he's safe, he said. He did the right thing. The detective closed the folder. One more thing, he said quietly. This wasn't the first time. Emily froze. What? What do you mean? Not the first time what? The detective looked at her, eyes filled with sympathy. This wasn't the first time Noah has been investigated for domestic violence. There were 2 reports before you. Both withdrawn. Both women disappeared after. Emily's stomach dropped. Oh my God, she whispered. Her father's fists clenched. He's a predator, the detective said. He hunts women with no support system. He isolates them, controls them, then breaks them down. Emily felt bile rise in her throat. She had been one of them. She had almost been another disappearance. Her father covered her hand with his. It's over now, he said. He'll never touch you again. Emily nodded weakly. But inside something new was growing. Not fear. Not guilt. Not helplessness. Anger. Not the destructive kind. The righteous kind. The kind that whispered. He took 3 years of your life. He took your peace. He tried to take your child. Now take everything back. Her father saw it in her eyes. And he nodded slowly. That fire, he whispered. That strength, that's your mother. Emily inhaled sharply. I want justice, she whispered. Not just for me. For the other women too. And you'll get it, her father promised. The detective smiled faintly. I'll make sure of it. Emily looked down at her belly, stroking it gently. I'm sorry he hurt us, she whispered to her unborn child. But I promise, I will never let anyone hurt you again. Her father placed his hand over hers. You're not alone anymore, he whispered. Not now. Not ever. And for the first time in years, Emily believed him. If this story moved you, don't scroll past. Someone out there is living Emily's nightmare right now. Your support helps stories like this reach those who need hope, courage, and a voice. Subscribe if your heart cares. Emily stood by the window of her father's guest room that night, staring into the quiet street below. The lights from passing cars painted fleeting streaks across her swollen belly, and every now and then, she touched the side where her baby kicked. Soft, hesitant. Almost as if he too was afraid. Her father had insisted she rest, but rest was impossible. The past wasn't done with her. Noah wasn't done with her. And the bruises on her back, still fresh and burning with every small movement, reminded her of the truth she'd tried to deny for too long. Her father knocked gently before entering. He carried a warm compress wrapped in a towel and placed it beside her. You don't have to be strong alone, he said quietly. Emily swallowed hard, staring straight ahead. She didn't want to turn around because she didn't want him to see her crying again. Dad, maybe I shouldn't have come here, she whispered. He stepped closer. Emily, look at me. She didn't move. Please, he said. When she finally turned, he saw her face. The exhaustion, the fear, the shame she shouldn't have to carry. He cupped her cheek like she was still his little girl. You didn't do anything wrong, he whispered. Her lips trembled. But he's my husband. Kept giving him excuses. Thought maybe he'd change. Maybe I'd change enough for him. You don't change for wicked men, her father said softly. And you sure as hell don't let them break you. That was when the memory hit her. The one she'd pushed down for 3 years. The first time he hurt her. The night she should have walked away. They were newly married, living in a tiny duplex in Phoenix. Emily remembered making dinner, spaghetti because she knew he liked it. She remembered waiting, checking the clock, listening for his car. He'd come in smelling like whiskey, smiling like he'd won something. And then the smile shifted when he saw the table. "That's it?" he asked. "Spaghetti." She had laughed it off. "You said it's your favorite." He'd dropped his keys on the counter. "You don't listen." The argument spiraled quickly, tiny things blown into storms until his anger snapped like a whip. He hit her. Just once. Just enough to shock her. He cried afterward, begging, apologizing, calling himself a monster. She forgave him within minutes. She held him while he cried, promising she'd do better, be better, make him happier. 1 slap became 5. 5 became 10. And soon pain became normal. Emily blinked out of the memory and wiped her face quickly, as if ashamed to let it linger. Her father watched her carefully. He could see the truth without her speaking. They had hurt her for years, and she had suffered silently in the dark. "Noah's not letting me go easily," she whispered. Her father didn't flinch. "Let him come. He'll face me before he ever touches you again." "You don't understand," she insisted, voice cracking. "He's not alone. His mistress, Vanessa, she hates me. She wants my place. She wants everything. And Noah. He listens to her more than he's ever listened to me." Her father's jaw tightened. Emily continued, breathing shakily. "When he whipped me, she was smiling, butching, like she was enjoying it. Like hurting me made her feel powerful." Her father closed his eyes briefly in pain. "You think I'm afraid of Noah and his mistress?" he asked. "I think he's dangerous," she whispered. "Good," he replied. "So am I." Emily's breath caught. She had never heard that tone from him. Sharp, decisive, filled with fury that had been silent for too long. Her father had spent years believing she was happily married. He had sent her money for her birthday, mailed gifts to her home, called when he could, thinking she lived a life of comfort. She had answered every call pretending to smile, pretending to be okay. He had no idea that while he sent flowers, she was cleaning blood from the bathroom floor. While he mailed her birthday cards, she was covering bruises with makeup. While he encouraged her to enjoy her new life, she was living in fear of the door opening too loudly. "Emily," he said softly, "why didn't you tell me?" Her breath shuddered. "Because you would have come for me. And he would have hurt you too. I couldn't risk that." Her father exhaled slowly, deeply, like he was trying to steady the storm inside him. He took both her hands in his. "From this moment on," he said, "I'm not letting you fight this alone. I don't care what Noah thinks he is. I don't care what that woman believes she deserves. They hurt my daughter. And they will face consequences." Emily looked down at her belly, stroking it gently as another kick pressed against her palm. "I'm sorry he hurt us," she whispered to her unborn child. "But I promise, I will never let anyone hurt you again." Her father placed his hand over hers, his touch warm, grounding, protective. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered. "Not now. Not ever." And for the first time in years, Emily believed him. She believed she might make it out alive. She believed her baby might grow up safe. She believed her story wasn't over. And the next chapter wouldn't be written in fear. If this story moved you, don't scroll past. Someone out there is living Emily's nightmare right now. Your support helps stories like this reach people who need hope, courage, and a voice. Subscribe if your heart cares. Night settled over the house, but sleep refused to touch Emily. Every creak of the floorboards, every shift of the wind outside, every distant car engine made her heartbeat spike. She lay on her side, one hand on her belly, her father's old quilt wrapped around her like a shield. But safety, real safety, still felt unreal. Her father moved quietly in the hallway, checking every lock, every door, every window. He wasn't taking chances. Not after what he saw. Not after what he learned. Around midnight, the silence broke with his soft knock. "You awake?" he asked. Emily nodded, even though he couldn't see her. He stepped inside. "Brought you some warm milk." She tried to smile. "Dad, I'm not 8 anymore." "You'll always be 8 to me," he said, setting the cup down on the nightstand. "Especially after what that bastard did." She closed her eyes, absorbing the warmth of his presence. For a moment, she remembered the father she used to know, the man who braided her hair before school, who rushed from work to watch her dance recitals, who drove hours just to surprise her with ice cream on her birthday. The man who cried quietly when she married Noah because he feared she was too young, too trusting, too gentle for someone he didn't fully understand. He had been right. "Try to sleep," he said, patting her shoulder before stepping away. But the moment he left the room, Emily's chest tightened. Sleep wasn't coming. Memories were. The first time Noah brought Vanessa home. Emily remembered the way he introduced her. A co-worker, just needing a place to crash for a few days. Emily remembered smiling politely, even though something in Vanessa's eyes felt cold, calculating, wrong. Vanessa was pretty. Too pretty to pretend she didn't notice it. Tall, sharp features, long black hair, red lipstick she wore like armor. Emily had felt small instantly. But what bothered her wasn't Vanessa's beauty. It was her smirk. The way she walked into Emily's home as if she owned it. The way she sat on their couch like she was being tested for the role of new wife. Emily had tried to be kind. She offered her food. She washed her clothes. She made space, hoping the awkward tension would fade. But Vanessa only grew bolder, wearing shorter clothes, complimenting Noah too closely, making jokes that cut deep. And Noah, he laughed. He encouraged her. He let her stay. Until one night, Emily found them together. Not just flirting, not just close, but in a way that burned itself into her mind forever. Vanessa didn't apologize. She didn't flinch. She just stared at Emily victorious. Like she wanted Emily to walk in. Like she wanted her to break. That was the night everything changed. That was the night the hitting became worse. That was the night he told her she should have tried harder to keep him. And it was the night she lost the last pieces of herself. A sudden knock jolted Emily back to the present. Her father opened the door again, but this time he wasn't calm. He was holding his phone, his face pale. "Emily," he said. "You need to sit up." Her heart froze. What happened? "It's Noah." Her stomach dropped. "What about him?" "He's been calling me. Non-stop." He handed her the phone. "He left voicemails. Dozens." Emily reached for the phone with trembling fingers. The first voicemail played. "Emily, where the hell are you? You think you can just leave? You think you can embarrass me?" Her breath hitched. He wasn't yelling. He was worse. He was cold. The next voicemail. "You're making a mistake coming between me and Vanessa. You think your daddy can protect you. Let him try." Her father's jaw clenched. Another voicemail. "You're weak without me. You always were. But you'll come back. You always come back." He felt sick. Her baby kicked gently, as if sensing her distress. "No," she whispered. "Not this time." Her father took the phone from her before she could listen to the rest. "That's enough," he said. "We're going to the police in the morning." Emily shook her head, terrified. "Dad, if we do that, he'll be furious." He already is furious," he snapped softly. "And he already hurt you. I'm not waiting for him to try again." Emily pressed her hand to her belly. "But Vanessa, she's worse than him in some ways. She'll push him to come after me." "I don't care if the devil himself pushes him," her father replied. "They won't get within a mile of this house." Emily wanted to believe him. But fear had been living inside her for so long, it felt like part of her bones. "Dad," she whispered, voice trembling, "you don't understand what he's capable of. And you don't understand what I'm capable of when someone hurts my daughter." His words shook her. Not because they were angry but because they were true. She wasn't alone anymore. Her father wasn't backing down. He'd rather die than let Noah touch her again. Emily swallowed, tears filling her eyes. What if he comes tonight? Her father stepped closer and placed both hands on her shoulders. Then he'll regret it tonight. For the first time since the beating, Emily breathed a little easier. Her father stood taller. Emily held her belly tighter. And outside, in the darkness Noah loved so much, something moved. A dark sedan slowed at the end of the driveway. The engine turned off. And silence swallowed the night. If this moment made your heart race, don't scroll past. Stories like Emily's are real for far too many women. Your support helps spread awareness and gives strength to someone who feels trapped right now. Subscribe if you refuse to stay silent. Emily froze, her hand clutching her belly as the car's headlights cut through the darkness outside the window. Her father's hand was firm on her shoulder, steadying her even as her heart pounded in terror. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His eyes said everything, alert, furious, protective. The car door clicked, then silence, then footsteps, heavy, deliberate. Emily's stomach turned. Noah. He had come. And with him, she knew, Vanessa was lurking somewhere behind the scenes, whispering poison into his ear, fueling the rage that had already scarred her body and soul. Her father slid quietly out of the room, motioning for Emily to stay low. He moved with the precision of a man who had faced far greater dangers in boardrooms and back alleys than this suburban street. Emily pressed herself into the corner of the room, trying to shrink into the shadows, her breath shallow. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but she was pregnant. She couldn't. Not yet. The front door handle rattled. Emily's pulse went wild. She could hear Noah's low growl through the door, a sound that used to make her shiver with false affection, now a trigger of raw fear. And then a sharp click, the door opened just slightly. A figure appeared, silhouetted in the dim porch light. Her father stepped forward from the side, voice cold, controlled, lethal. Leave. Now. Noah froze. For the first time in years, Emily saw him hesitate. The arrogance faltered. The bravado cracked. He had faced threats before, but never from someone like Jonathan Reese. A man whose fury was silent until it wasn't, whose presence alone made grown men reconsider their life choices. Vanessa's laugh drifted from the shadows, sharp, malicious. He can't keep you forever, Noah. It is ours. You know that. No, Noah spat, stepping further into the house. She's mine. Not anymore, her father said, his tone even but cutting. He moved like a predator closing the distance on prey. And if you touch her, if you breathe near her, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. You hear me? Noah's hand twitched, reaching instinctively for the waistband where he often carried his phone, his knife, or whatever he used to intimidate. But before he could act, her father's shadow was upon him, fast, precise, unrelenting. He grabbed Noah by the collar and slammed him against the wall with a force that made Emily flinch even from a distance. Stay down, her father growled. Stay the hell down, or I swear. Noah's arrogance faded into panic. His breathing hitched. He looked around, realizing suddenly that he was not in control. Not here. Not tonight. Not against a man who had already seen the darkness Noah thrived in and was ready to crush it. Vanessa screamed, stepping forward, but her father's eyes locked on hers like daggers. Back. Wait. Or you join him in consequences you're not prepared for. Emily, still crouched, felt a wave of emotions crash over her. Furious, but also relief. The man who had haunted her dreams for 3 years was finally powerless. And the presence of her father, unwavering and dominant, was a shield she had never had. Noah slumped to the floor under her father's grip, shaking. This isn't over, he hissed, venom in his words but none in action. Yes, it is, Jonathan said. His voice dropped an octave. Because I'm not letting you touch her ever again. You wanted to play a game of fear, Noah. But the game ends tonight. He turned to Emily, kneeling beside her. His face softened, but the edge never left his tone. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Emily nodded, tears streaming freely. "I think so, Dad. I think he's gone." Her father didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at Noah one last time, making sure the threat was neutralized, ensuring no detail was overlooked. Then he guided Emily gently into a chair, wrapping a protective arm around her shoulders. The police had already been alerted. Officers arrived moments later, finding Noah and Vanessa both terrified, exposed, and entirely accountable for their actions. Noah was arrested for repeated domestic assault, aggravated by the fact that Emily was 7 months pregnant. Vanessa was taken into custody as an accomplice, facing questioning for incitement and complicity. Emily felt the weight of months lift off her chest as she watched the scene unfold from the safety of her father's embrace. The legal consequences were only the beginning, but she finally understood something fundamental. She wasn't powerless. She hadn't been powerless tonight, nor in years past. She had survived, and survival was only the first step. Her father looked down at her belly, his hand resting over hers. "You are strong. You and your baby. Nothing can touch you while I'm around." Emily felt a flutter of hope rise inside her. For the first time, she imagined a future where her child would grow up free from fear, where she could live without trembling at every raised hand or whispered threat. If you are still watching this and your heart races for Emily, don't scroll past. Some people out there are facing monsters just like Noah right now, silent, afraid, and trapped. Your awareness, your voice, your support matters. Subscribe to help bring courage and hope to those who need it most. For the first time in months, Emily closed her eyes and allowed herself to rest, leaning into her father's strength, feeling her baby move with gentle certainty, as though even he sensed the safety she had longed for. The night was still dark, but it felt different. For Emily, for her unborn child, for the first time in years, the storm had passed. Emily woke before dawn, her eyes heavy and her body sore, but for the first time in years, she felt alive instead of paralyzed. The quiet house was filled with the hum of Atlanta waking up, but inside her, something deeper had shifted. She ran a hand over her belly, feeling the small kicks of her son, proof that life persisted even after months of fear and violence. Her father was already in the kitchen, pouring coffee and checking his emails. The calm precision of his movements reminded her of the father she had admired as a child, the man who could command rooms without raising his voice, who made people fear and respect him simultaneously. Only now, that presence felt intensely personal, protective, and alive for her sake, not the boardroom. He turned as she entered, the coffee steaming between his hands. "Morning," he said softly. "Sleep well." Emily shook her head, laughing weakly. "Not really, but I feel lighter somehow." He nodded, sliding a chair out for her. "Good. That's how it should feel. You're finally free of him. And tonight, everyone involved will see that freedom documented in black and white. The police reports, the statements, the evidence." Emily shivered. She remembered Noah's sneer, Vanessa's malicious smile, the endless months of psychological torment that followed every physical strike. And now it was all about to be confronted, exposed, undeniable. For once, she would not be silenced. Her father poured her a cup of warm milk and handed it over. "Drink this. You're not done yet. You're strong, but we have battles ahead." She nodded, taking the cup. "I know. I don't know how I'll face them in court, Dad. I'm scared. Even with everything, I'm scared." He sat down beside her. "Fear is natural, but courage is acting even when you're afraid. And you, my daughter, you're the most courageous person I know. You endured what no one should, and you survived. That alone is proof you can do this." Emily's eyes welled up. Do you think they'll hurt me again if I testify?" Her father's hand gripped hers firmly. "No, they won't touch you. Not today. Not ever. The law is on your side, and I'll be by your side. And if anything happens, I promise you, I'll make sure it stops immediately. You are my priority." The morning passed in a blur. Police arrived again to collect additional statements. Officers interviewed neighbors who had witnessed snippets of the abuse, and detectives gathered evidence that would ensure Noah and Vanessa faced the full consequences of their actions. Emily gave her statements carefully, her voice shaky at times, but her resolve strengthening with every sentence. She realized that speaking her truth was not only freeing herself but possibly protecting other women from similar pain. As the sun climbed higher, Emily and her father sat together on the porch, wrapped in blankets. The street below was quiet now, the threat of the previous night seeming like a distant nightmare. She glanced down at her belly and whispered, "I can't let him touch us again. Ever." "I won't." Her father nodded. "You won't. And you don't have to worry about it. You have the law, you have me, and you have your strength. That's more than enough." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the sounds of life returning to the city. The fear that had haunted Emily for months was fading, replaced by a cautious hope she had not allowed herself to feel since she discovered Noah's first lies. His first manipulations, his first strikes. "I keep thinking about the other women," Emily said finally. "The ones before me. The ones who disappeared. I can't help but feel responsible somehow." Her father reached out and squeezed her hand. "You are not responsible for what he did. You survived. And now your voice can protect others. That's all you need to do. You cannot undo the past, but you can shape the future." Emily nodded, feeling a mix of grief and determination. "I want to help. If anyone else comes forward, I want to make sure they're safe. I don't want them to feel alone the way I did." Her father smiled faintly. "That's my girl. Brave even when afraid. That's the Emily I always knew, hiding under all the pain and fear. And soon your child will grow up knowing a mother who never let fear control her, who fought and who survived." Emily looked down at her belly again, feeling the baby stir as if acknowledging the words she whispered. "You're going to grow up knowing your mother didn't give up. And I promise, we'll never let anyone hurt us again." Her father rested his hand over hers on her belly. "You are not alone. Not now. Not ever." As the day wore on, Emily began to feel a sense of clarity. She understood for the first time in years that the nightmare was over, that she and her child were safe, and that justice would be served. The fear that had consumed her was replaced by resolve, the kind that burned quietly but steadily in her chest. She was ready to reclaim her life, ready to confront the consequences of speaking her truth, and ready to ensure that Noah and Vanessa would never harm her, or anyone else again. The day ended with Emily and her father sitting side by side on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, the weight of months finally lifting, replaced by a fragile but unwavering hope. Emily woke to the sound of her phone buzzing insistently. The digital clock read 6:15 a.m., but the message on the screen made her stomach drop. It was from an unknown number. "You think you're safe? Think again." Her hand shook as she showed her father. Jonathan's jaw tightened. He grabbed the phone, traced the number, and frowned. "Blocked. Probably one of Noah's desperate attempts to scare you." Emily's hands trembled. "Why won't he just leave us alone? We did nothing wrong." "That's the thing about people like him," her father said. "They only care about control. As long as he can make you fear him, he thinks he wins." She pressed her palms to her belly, feeling the baby kick in anxious rhythm. "I can't let him hurt us, not ever." Her father's eyes softened. "You won't. And today we make sure of it." The day moved fast. They headed to the courthouse for preliminary hearings. Emily had expected dread, panic, trembling in the courtroom, but when she stepped inside, something unexpected happened. She felt power. Every step, every whispered word to her lawyer, every evidence sheet, every witness testimony built a wall of truth around her. Noah's smugness faltered as the judge reviewed the video footage, the police reports, the evidence of previous abuse. Even Vanessa's confident glare dissolved when confronted with undeniable proof of her complicity. Emily felt a quiet rage rise in her chest. She remembered every slap, every kick, every moment of humiliation and fear. She remembered the whispers of her father's absence in her youth, the lonely nights she endured while pretending everything was okay, the cruel laughs of Vanessa, the cold indifference of Noah's friends. Every memory strengthened her resolve. The judge called a brief recess. Emily stepped into the corridor, leaning against the cool marble wall, trying to slow her racing heart. Her father stayed close, protective. "You're doing well," he murmured. "You're standing up for yourself, for the baby, for the truth." "I'm scared," she admitted, tears threatening. What if they try to manipulate the court? What if Noah tries something in the waiting room? What if? Her father shook his head, cutting her off. "None of it matters. The evidence is on our side. You're not alone. And nothing he does can change that. You survived him at his worst. The law isn't going to let him win." Emily's tears fell anyway. She hadn't cried like this in months, not since the night he whipped her while Vanessa watched. She let herself sob quietly, hands on her belly, whispering apologies and promises at once. "I'm sorry you had to feel fear. I promise you we will be safe. I promise you we'll fight." Back in the courtroom, the hearing continued. Witnesses spoke, neighbors recounted screams and threats, recordings were played, and even Noah's former associates were called to testify. Vanessa squirmed, her perfect facade crumbling as she denied, stammered, and tried to rewrite history. Noah's arrogance gave way to panic as the judge weighed every shred of evidence. By the afternoon, Emily felt a shift. The courtroom energy changed. People began to see her not as a victim but as a survivor. Her courage, her composure, and her undeniable evidence of abuse painted a picture no one could ignore. Noah and Vanessa were cornered. Their lies, their manipulation, their cruelty, finally exposed. Afterward, Emily stepped outside, leaning against her father's shoulder. The afternoon sun hit her face, warm and grounding. She felt a strange sense of relief. The first taste of justice. "Dad, it's really happening," she whispered. "They can't get away with it anymore." "No," he said. "And they never will." Emily touched her belly again, feeling her baby move. "I can't wait for you to meet the world. You'll grow up safe. You'll grow up knowing your mother fought for you, knowing she survived, knowing she protected you." Her father placed his hand over hers, the weight of protection, strength, and love grounding her. "And I'll be here too. Every step. Every day. Nothing will ever hurt you again. Not while I'm breathing." Emily took a deep breath, feeling courage blossom where fear had once dominated. For the first time, she realized she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was reclaiming her life. And she would never let anyone, no matter how dangerous or manipulative, threaten her or her child again. If this story resonates, don't scroll past. Many people are living Emily's nightmare, trapped in silence, and your support can give them courage. Subscribe now to help share real stories of survival and strength. Emily sat in the quiet of her father's study, her hands resting gently on her belly, as if the baby's presence grounded her in reality. The day had been long, emotionally exhausting, yet strangely empowering. She had watched the courtroom proceedings, felt the tension, heard the witnesses, and finally seen Noah and Vanessa squirm under the weight of the truth. Justice had not yet been fully served, but she could feel it coming. Slow, deliberate, inevitable. Her father stood by the window, surveying the street below. He had already called the family lawyer and coordinated with the detectives to ensure that every precaution was taken. His presence was a shield she had once thought impossible. Emily remembered nights where she had hidden bruises, wiped away tears in silence, and whispered apologies to the ceiling, wishing he could save her from the monster she had married. And now he had. "Emily," he said softly, breaking her reverie. "I know you're scared about the next steps. The trial. The media. The attention. But you need to know whatever happens we will face it together. And no one will hurt you again." She looked up at him, tears welling in her eyes. I don't know if I can go through the full trial. Seeing him, facing him. I'm afraid he'll try to manipulate me again or." Her father stepped closer, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. Emily, you've already faced him at his worst. You've endured physical abuse, manipulation, humiliation, and fear that no one should ever have to feel. And yet, you're still standing. You're still breathing. And now you have the truth. You have the law. You have people who will stand with you. Fear doesn't get to dictate the rest of your life. Emily pressed her hand to her belly. I just keep thinking, what if this changes everything for him? What if he comes after me in other ways? I don't want to live in fear forever. You won't, her father said firmly. He's in jail now, thanks to the evidence we collected. His access to you is gone. And the law will keep it that way. For you, for your child. She closed her eyes, letting the words sink in, trying to internalize the safety she had longed for all these months. For 3 years, she had been trapped in a nightmare, surviving daily attacks on her body, mind, and spirit. Now she realized that survival was only the first step. Reclaiming her life would be harder, but it was possible. Her mind drifted back to her first moments of marriage with Noah. The charming smile, the whispered promises of love and protection, the gentle touches that had seemed sincere. She remembered how quickly that illusion had shattered, how every promise had turned into chains, how every smile had masked cruelty. And then, the most vivid memory, the night he had whipped her mercilessly while Vanessa watched and smiled. She could still feel the sting, the fear, the betrayal. But now she also remembered something else. Her father's intervention, the moment he walked into that house, the calm authority that stopped Noah in his tracks, the immediate shift in power. She had never known what it meant to feel truly protected until that moment. And now, in the quiet of her father's study, she realized that protection wasn't just about stopping violence. It was about giving her the strength to believe she could survive, to believe she could fight back, to believe she could reclaim her dignity. "Dad," she whispered, voice shaking. "Thank you for everything. For showing up when I thought no one would. For not letting him win." Her father's eyes softened, and he sat beside her, taking her hands in his. "Emily, you don't need to thank me. I did what any father would do. But what you did, surviving, speaking out, staying strong, that was all you. I just gave you the chance to remember your own power." Emily felt a wave of emotion crash over her. Grief mixed with relief, fear mixed with hope. She realized that this journey wasn't just about escaping Noah. It was about reclaiming herself. About becoming the mother she wanted to be. Raising a child free from fear. Teaching lessons of strength, courage, and self-respect. She wanted her child to know that no one, no matter how powerful or manipulative, could take away their dignity if they refused to surrender it. The phone rang, breaking the quiet. Her father answered, and Emily could hear the muffled voices of the detectives and lawyers coordinating the next steps. She listened, understanding that every detail mattered, every precaution was necessary, and every decision was part of the process that would ensure Noah and Vanessa faced full accountability. After the call, her father turned back to her. "They're finalizing the trial dates, making sure all evidence is properly submitted. Noah and Vanessa will have no room to manipulate the system this time. The law is on your side, Emily. And this time, justice will be complete." Emily nodded, feeling a sense of determination she hadn't felt in years. The fear was still there. It always would be in some way, but it no longer controlled her. She could feel the baby kick, a small but powerful reminder of life, resilience, and hope. "I'm ready," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. "I'm ready to face them. To end this. For me, and for you." Her father placed his hand over hers, the weight of protection and love grounding her. "And I'll be with you. Every step. You're not alone, Emily. Not now. Not ever." Outside, the world continued to turn. The city buzzed with life, oblivious to the quiet battle being fought in one suburban home. But inside, Emily felt a clarity she had not known in years. She was no longer just surviving. She was preparing to reclaim her life, to ensure the past could no longer touch her, and to build a future for her child that would be filled with safety, love, and strength. If you feel your heart racing for Emily, don't scroll past. There are people in the world living her nightmare, silent and afraid. Your support spreads courage, hope, and strength. Subscribe to help give them a voice. Emily sat in the courtroom, the late afternoon sun streaming through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished wood floors. The air was thick with tension, the kind that makes your chest ache and your stomach twist. Today was the final hearing, the day that would decide everything. Noah and Vanessa sat across the room, their faces pale, their arrogance replaced by unease, sensing the walls closing in. Her father's hand rested lightly on hers, a steady anchor in the storm. "You're ready," he whispered. "We've prepared every detail. The truth is on your side. Nothing else matters." Emily nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. Every step she had taken to get here, the silent cries at night, the bruises she hid under layers of clothing, the whispered apologies she muttered to her belly, had led to this moment. She was no longer a victim. She was a witness, a survivor, and a fighter. The judge entered, the gavel striking the sound block with authority, and silence fell. Emily straightened in her seat, heart racing, every nerve alert. The proceedings began, and she watched as her evidence was presented. Video recordings, police reports, witness testimonies, even the account of Noah's own brother confirming the abuse and manipulation. Noah's smug confidence crumbled. Every lie he tried to weave was unraveled by facts, by truth, by the relentless testimony of a woman who had endured and survived. Vanessa's attempts to manipulate perception failed miserably. Emily's composure, her courage, her undeniable presence, left the courtroom silent at times, the weight of the evidence almost tangible. When it was her turn to speak, Emily rose. Her legs trembled, but she held herself tall. She looked at Noah first, then Vanessa, and then at the room that had been filled with disbelief, judgment, and fear just months ago. "My name is Emily Harris," she began, her voice steady, carrying through the room. "I am here not just for myself, but for my child, and for anyone who has ever suffered at the hands of someone who promised love but delivered violence. I was married to Noah, a man I trusted. He hurt me. He hurt my unborn child. And he had a partner in his mistress, Vanessa, who encouraged and watched it happen. They believed I could be broken. They were wrong." Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. "I have endured, have survived, and I will not be silent any longer. I am here to ensure justice is done, not just for me, but for the message it sends. Abuse is not acceptable, and perpetrators will be held accountable." Emily's father squeezed her hand. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past 3 years lift, just slightly, replaced by a determination stronger than any fear she had ever known. The prosecutor presented the final arguments, detailing the repeated abuse, the calculated manipulation, and the threat posed to Emily and her child. The defense faltered, unable to refute the overwhelming evidence. Emily's heart pounded as she realized that the truth, so long ignored, was finally being acknowledged, validated, and respected. When the judge called for a recess before the verdict, Emily sank into her chair, overwhelmed. Her father whispered, "Almost there. You did everything right." She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of months of terror, anxiety, and pain slowly dissipate. The courtroom returned to order, and the judge read the verdict with deliberate gravity. Noah was found guilty of repeated domestic assault, aggravated by the fact that Emily was 7 months pregnant. Vanessa was found complicit, facing charges of aiding and abetting, and both were sentenced appropriately. A hush fell over the courtroom. Emily's chest heaved with relief. The legal confirmation of justice washed over her like sunlight breaking through a storm cloud. She could finally breathe, finally feel safe, and finally imagine a future unshadowed by fear. Outside, the world seemed brighter. Emily stepped into the sunlight, her father beside her. The wind caught her hair, the warmth of the day on her face. She pressed a hand to her belly and whispered, "We're safe now. I promise you'll never know fear like I did." Her father smiled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You're not alone. Not now. Not ever. You've reclaimed your life, Emily. You've shown strength, courage, and resilience. And now, your child will grow up knowing a mother who fought for them, who survived, who refused to surrender to fear. Emily's tears flowed freely. Not of pain, but of release, gratitude, and triumph. She felt her child kick, a small but undeniable heartbeat of hope, life, and renewal. Weeks later, in the quiet of her father's home, Emily gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Grace, a testament to survival, strength, and the power of reclaiming life after trauma. Holding her daughter, Emily vowed to teach her the lessons she had learned the hardest way. Love is respect, strength is essential, and fear should never dictate life's choices. Her father watched, tears in his eyes, as Emily cradled Grace. "You're going to grow up knowing courage," Emily whispered to her daughter. "And nothing, no one, will ever take that from you." The story of Emily's survival spread, a powerful reminder that abuse can be overcome, that justice can prevail, and that one person's courage can inspire countless others. If this story moved you, don't scroll past. There are people living Emily's nightmare tonight. Silent, terrified, unsure of hope. Your support can give them courage, strength, and a voice. Subscribe to help shine light into lives overshadowed by fear. Emily stood on the porch with her father and Grace in her arms, the sun setting in warm hues across the horizon. She finally felt what she had longed for: peace, safety, and the knowledge that the nightmare was over. The future was hers to shape, for herself and for the daughter she would raise strong, brave, and free. Emily's journey reminds us that no one has to suffer in silence. Domestic abuse thrives in shadows, but courage, truth, and support can shine a light strong enough to break even the darkest chains. Every survivor deserves safety, justice, and the chance to reclaim their life, just as Emily did. If this story moved you, don't scroll past. Share it, speak up, and be a voice for those who are still trapped in fear. Someone out there is living Emily's nightmare right now, and your awareness could give them hope. Subscribe now to help spread real stories of survival, courage, and empowerment. Your support could save a life.